And we are starting recording now. Okay, very good. Okay, I'd like to welcome you all to the second online Western Liberty Network training. This one is going to be on fundraising. The last one was on getting out the vote. We're still learning this technology. We're trying to improve it so that we can use audio clips and visual clips in the future. We had a good shakedown cruise a couple of weeks ago, and we're going to try and do it even better now. I think I know most of you. My name is Richard Burke. I am the Executive Director of Western Liberty Network. Western Liberty Network is a 501c3 organization, and what we do is we train grassroots political activists how to do politics, how to take their power, and in doing so, reweave the fabric of Oregon's and Washington's political culture. So we are making good progress in that since we founded in 2011, and we're going to try and move that ball forward a little bit today. So I want to apologize. I'm not going to do personal introductions. These are short trainings, and you know, if we do a lot of personal introductions, some folks won't remember them, and then we'll run out of time to actually do the training because they limit us in how much time we can use. But we will be doing something like that in the future. I would, however, like to recognize some of the Western Liberty Network affiliates that have helped with this and other trainings, including Slavic Vote in Oregon and Washington. Michael Patrick is here from East County for All, a new Western Liberty Network affiliate. Oregon Citizens Alliance, the Informed Citizen Network, and statewide, we have 20 affiliates in Oregon and 4 in Washington. So we're using these as training outlets between annual conferences to provide training. This is going to be a training on how to raise money. And particularly since we have 5 or 6 participants here, I want this to be interactive. So if you want to, feel free to unmute your microphone and interject a question or a comment or interrupt me, whatever you want to do. The more interaction we can have, usually the more fun these things can be. And generally, we're going to train you how to generally raise money and specifically how to raise your first $2,500. $2,500 is usually enough to do small community projects and a lot of local nonpartisan races, but for larger campaigns, it can often be the seed money to raise or to conduct larger fundraising projects later. After this conference, I'll be issuing a PDF document, which will include some of the tips we cover in this training. So if you want that, send me an email at rpbcentral@gmail.com, and I'll be sure to get that for you. I'll repeat that before the session is over today, and if you would like me to repeat it more, then I'll be happy to do so. So one thing I want to make very clear is that this topic warrants much more than a 40-minute training session. There are people who base their entire careers on training people how to raise money. And there are people who spend decades learning how to do it when they're in positions such as development director and fundraising director and those sorts of things. So this is not going to pretend to be an all-encompassing session. What I'm going to try to do is to provide you some basics, particularly attitudinal shifts that will help you be successful as you go out and raise money. And hopefully we will raise, we will give you enough tips so you will be able to raise that $2,500, hopefully within a week or less. So there will be more trainings on this topic. We'll do a variety of trainings on different aspects of fundraising, but this one will give you some basics. One thing that's very clear is that you will need to work. As you raise money, you will have to work. A lot of people don't like to raise money. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And a lot of people attend these sessions thinking that there's some kind of magic bullet that will allow them to raise money without having to do a lot of work. The truth is, though, if you're going to be raising money for a campaign or a community project, it is going to require interaction. It is going to require work. This is something that requires practice to be really good at, but you can be successful right from the start. If you start and if you work, you will have success. And if you keep at it, you will have more success and more success. So this is an attempt to get you started. It can also be fun. What you're going to find is that once you get started with this, you will do a lot more than simply raise money. You'll find allies. You'll gain access to people. You'll gain access to the networks of the people that you talk to. You'll gain access to their skills, their resources. Maybe one of them owns a printing house. You know, maybe one of them is a lawyer. Maybe one of them knows how to do books. I mean, whatever it is, you're going to meet people and you're going to find allies. And among other things, you will, in many cases, gain access to their networks and their skill sets in their worlds. You'll find that your sphere of influence will expand. You'll find that you will gain confidence. You'll get a lot of no's out there, but you will get yeses. And once you realize where you're starting from a competency standpoint, and you learn what you need to learn in order to be more successful, you'll become more confident. You'll also be able to start your own projects. It's hard to start projects if you don't have the ability to raise money. If you're wealthy or have access to somebody with a big checkbook, that certainly makes things easy. But a lot of people don't have that, especially if they're starting out in politics. So it's important that you get these skills, and once you do, you will gain confidence. You'll be able to start your own projects, your own campaigns, and you'll become indispensable to the campaigns and projects that you are a part of. And what I have found is that in addition to all of this, you'll make friends, you'll build relationships, and you'll find this is a very positive experience. Now, in the view of making things fun, Western Liberty Network will provide a $25 Domino's Pizza gift card and public recognition to the first person or group that uses this training to raise $2,500 for a candidate campaign, a ballot measure campaign, a political action committee, or a community project. This will be fun. All we ask is that once you've accomplished that, send me an email telling me what you've done and how the training helped you to accomplish it. The first person that does it gets a small pizza party. It's just a little thing. It's 25 bucks, but you know, you'll enjoy that pizza probably more than you've enjoyed any pizza before, and you can invite over some friends and celebrate your victory. That's how a lot of things get started. And this particular idea, I want to give credit to Victoria Volashina of Slavic Vote. After attending the last conference on getting out the vote, she said, have a contest, make it fun. And so I decided to take her advice. So that's what we did. Thanks to Victoria. Okay, now fundraising at its essence is about building relationships. If you think about fundraising as a bunch of phone calls where all you're doing is making hit and runs, you will raise some money, but you'll miss a lot of opportunities. And you will not be as successful if you would be if you considered fundraising at its essence about the building of relationships. Because really what you're not doing is simply asking for money. You are entering into a partnership with each person that offers you support. Each person that you approach has a vision of what they want the future to be. They have an idea of what they would like to see other people accomplish, particularly things that they don't have time to accomplish, but they might care about. And you need to think of yourself as a partner. They have money, you have time. You have time and effort. And if you think of it as building relationships, not just asking for money, you will find it a much more rewarding experience. You will be much more successful in that experience. And you will also help the people that you're raising money from to accomplish their goals. And that is really the trick. If you can help the people you're talking to accomplish their goals, then you will be very successful in raising money, doing the things you do, which incidentally help to promote their goals as well. A fundraising call is an exploration to find a variety of ways you can work with a donor for mutual benefit. And it's important to respect the nature of that relationship. I've seen people say, oh my gosh, I need to raise money. I hate making fundraising calls. Just give me a list. I've got a project. I need to raise $1,000. Just give me a list and I'll start making calls. And they'll make calls and they'll say things like, hi, my name is Joe Blow, and I am calling about such and such a project for such and such an organization. And we need $1,000 to do this project and like to know if you can help. Okay, now if you take that approach when you're raising money, you will raise some, but you will miss a lot of opportunities. And that leads me into the most important thing. If you get nothing else from this call today, I want you to get this. And that is, if you are raising money, in my opinion, correctly, you will never find yourself in a position of begging or asking for money simply because you need it or because your project or your organization needs it. A lot of big government people, and excuse my bias, but in many cases liberals, they see need as a virtue. I need your money. You should give it to me because I need it, or this project needs it, or this constituency needs it. You should give it to us because the need is so great. A lot of people who are in support of big government, they don't have a problem with that kind of approach. But I found that most limited government activists and conservatives really hate that approach. They don't like begging for money based on needs. They see themselves as begging for money. And they shy away from making those kind of phone calls, and that leads them to shy away from raising money generally. What you need to do is shift your attitude toward the idea that you are offering a value in exchange for a value they have. You want their money, but you also possibly would like access to their resources. You would like access to their networks. You would like access to whatever professional expertise they might have. But you have value. You are going to be an agent of policy if you get elected to office, or if the person that you're working for gets elected to office. And you're basically doing the politics that these people would like to see done, but they don't have the skill, the inclination, or the time to do it. You know, even if I was a lawyer, I would not represent myself. I would want somebody to represent me. And I have money to offer, they have skills to offer. If you're selling a car, you're asking people for money in exchange for your car. Conservatives don't feel embarrassed about that. They don't feel embarrassed about selling a house or a car or anything like that, because what they're doing is honorable. They are offering a value in exchange for the value that they're asking for. So if you can think about it that way, if you can say, look, I'm not begging for money. I'm offering the possibility of a person to expand or leverage their political power through me because I share the politics that they share. I want to see the kind of bills passed that they want to see passed. And the value I'm offering is that I can promote those things that they would like to see promoted. And so I'm going to offer that value in exchange for some money, just as if I was selling a car and asking somebody for money. Now, that's not always going to get you to yes. You might have a car to sell, and the person might say, well, I do need a car, but I don't like your car. And they're not going to say yes. But sometimes they will. And so that brings you to the next step. Before you make a single phone call, figure out what you bring to the table, what it is that you are offering of value. If you are a candidate for office or you're working for a candidate for office, the primary objective is to get elected for the purpose of advancing certain policies that you or the person you're working for believes in. That is the primary value that you're offering. But I'll tell you, just as by way of experience, in 1998, I ran for Oregon governor on the Libertarian Party ticket. But if I called people and said to them, I'm going to be elected governor and I'm going to change this state and we're going to have more liberty, they would think I'm some kind of a nut. Because what do libertarians get? 1%, 2%, right? And you might be in an uphill battle. You might be on a limited budget fighting a big tax bill. You might be running or supporting a candidate that's going after an entrenched incumbent. And so what I encourage people to do is to come up with secondary and tertiary goals as well. An example of a secondary goal might be to raise the profile of particular issues. You might want to say, look, even if I don't win the election, I'm going to raise the profile of the PERS unfunded liability, or the condition of Oregon's roads, or whatever it is. Whatever issues you care about, you can say, look, even if I do not win the election, I'm going to put these issues on the map, and I'm going to push to have them dealt with after the election. Okay, that's a little less crazy if you're running an uphill campaign. Then there are tertiary values that you can offer. You can say, you know, we're behind the 8 ball in this state, and we need to start building infrastructure. So my campaign is going to work very hard to identify skilled and qualified volunteers, to provide ways for them to get training, to build a network of relationships in the media, to expand our media contacts, update the media contacts, develop a community of donors, do all of these other things, community of volunteers, whatever it is. You come up with the things that you are building, things that will survive the campaign, things that will persist the campaign, with the idea of saying, you know, I'm going to try to win this election. But even if I don't win this election, I'm going to raise this issue, this issue, this issue that I know you care about. And in addition, I'm going to help build infrastructure that can be deployed in the future for future candidates, ballot measure campaigns, community projects, and the like. So there are a lot of ways to get to success. So sit down, and if you're raising money, whoever you're raising money for, that's yourself or somebody else, start writing down what it is you are actually bringing to the table. What is the value, the car that you're going to be trying to sell as you begin raising money from folks? And then what you start to do is put together the lists of people you want to contact. Well, how do you find those? For people who are running for local office, I tell them to start with the people they know. Start with their family, start with their friends, start with their coworkers. Now, it's important that you not come off as somebody trying to get them into a multi-level marketing scheme. That's going to make you really unpopular really fast. But write down the names of all of these people that you know. People that you do business with. Who do you spend your money with? Who do you get your dry cleaning through? Who's your attorney? Who's your accountant? All of those things. And you can also get a lot of leads by going through financial reports from different political action committees. Look for political action committees that are sympathetic to your political inclination. Some of them might be ballot measure campaigns. Some of them might be candidates that you're aligned with who have been elected to office that a lot of people have given money to. Now, it's against the law to do this for a commercial purpose. But this is not a commercial purpose. You're going to be contacting people who are known donors that are aligned with you politically, and you're going to offer them an opportunity to invest in your campaign. So if you find these folks, then just make a list. If you don't have a list, if you just try to do it in your head, you're going to miss a lot of opportunities. So take the time, write it down, and think about the people that you're going to call. Now, if you call these people, I mean, if it's a large or mid-sized donor and you can get a one-on-one appointment at a coffee house when they open up again, it's the best. Telephone calls are okay. But when you call, what I advise people to do, and what I typically do myself, is be prepared to listen more than you talk. When you call somebody, be frank about your purpose. Don't bury it a half hour, because I'll tell you, they can see it coming. And if you are calling for money and they sniff it out and you kind of bury it to the very end, it's going to make you look weak and it's going to make you look unconfident. So what I like to do is I'd like to say something like, hi, Bob. I don't know why I always use the fictional word Bob, but I say, hi, Bob, my name is Rich Burke. Yeah, maybe you've met somewhere before. And I have to tell you, I'm working on a project that I'm looking for support for. And I'm going to ask you for support. But before I do, I don't just want to raise money today. I'm trying to build my network, learn from people, you know, build some relationships. And so I'd like to engage in a conversation with you about those things, the things you care about, and see what I can pick up from you. And most of the time, people are willing to do that. People like to be asked questions. They like to be asked their opinions. They like to be asked what they care about. And let them talk. A lot of times it'll take the form of saying, well, okay, Rich, well, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm running for the Tualatin Valley Water District Board of Commissioners. And, oh, why are you doing that? And I might give them my reasons, some of the things that I care about. And say, but, oh, there's somebody trying to get in. Hold on. Mike Sears. Hello, Mike. Hello, Mike. Welcome to the conference. So I'm going to continue on. Ask them things like, you know, the normal things like, how have you been, and so on and so forth. And then say, look, there's been a lot going on lately. What is it that you would like to see happen? What is it that you care about that's going on in the Oregon legislature, or what's going on in the culture? I'd like the people I talk to, I want to get an idea of what they care about and let them talk. If they need more specific information, if they want to be led in a direction, you know, offer an example. What do you think of the new tax package that Metro has? Or what do you think about what's going on? And just ask open-ended questions, questions that require them to elucidate, to explain. And what you're doing here is you're not just trying to look for an opening to ask for money. You need to be thinking about it in terms of genuinely trying to learn from these people what they care about. Because what you'll find is if you take notes, each conversation that you have like this, you're going to learn something. You're going to learn something about what somebody cares about. You're going to maybe learn about a new problem, see something from a perspective that you haven't seen before, and all of those things. But what you're also doing is you are looking for an opportunity to match up what they care passionately about with the things that you bring to the table that you're raising money for. For example, there was a guy who was in Willamette Week a couple of years ago, and he was interviewed, and he was saying, you know, I'm really tired of giving money to candidates. I give money to candidates and they either lose or they go the wrong way or something like that. I really wish there was something that would build a better foundation for limited government. And that's telling you exactly, they're telling you what they're going to give money to right there. If you let them talk, ask them what they care passionately about, they'll literally tell you what they will want to donate money to. And if you are offering something, genuinely offering something that matches up, you've got an opportunity to say, well, you know something? I'm interested, like with Western Liberty Network, I do this all the time. I say, you know, I agree with you about the foundation. I think if we win races at the top, it's great, but we're not going to be able to sustain those victories unless we build a culture of limited government. You know, we're working on some projects right now which have that as its goal. And if you're interested in supporting some of that, you know, I can tell you about them. And sometimes it's good to ask permission. Do I have your permission to tell you about them? If you do that, they'll almost always say yes. Almost never will they say something like, no, I do not give you permission to tell me about the things that relate to what I care about. They never do that. And so when they say, yeah, you can tell me about it, then proceed to do so. But make sure you talk about the values you bring to a project, which specifically match up with the things that they have indicated that they have a passion for. And in my case, it often takes the form of, well, I work very hard to build cadres of volunteers around the state who are skilled in volunteering for campaigns, people that are interested in running for local nonpartisan office who are limited government advocates. It's a long process. It's labor intensive. It's about training, and it costs us X amount to do, which comes to the next thing. We've talked a little bit. This is a lightning training. It's just giving you some highlights. We could elaborate deeply on every one of these points, and at some point we're going to. But we've talked a little bit about the attitude to take during fundraising so you don't feel like you're begging for money. We've talked a little bit about sitting down and writing down all of the goals and the values you bring to all the donors that you're going to talk to. We've talked about who to call, how to find out who to call, your friends, and for Mike's benefits, since he came late, everyone you know, people you do business with, friends, family, people on the financial reports of political action committees that are sympathetic to the things that you believe in, and how to engage them in conversation, and how to listen. Listen more than talk. And you're not always going to get a commitment of money on the first call. Sometimes building a relationship takes a few calls or a couple of meetings. It might take a year. It might take 5 minutes. It depends on the donor. You need to be flexible and you need to be adaptable. But if anyone here has done sales before, and my guess is that everyone here has done sales before, you need to know how much to ask for, and at some point you need to make the ask. You need to close the sale. What I like to do when asking for money is, if I have a project and I'm approaching somebody, I like to say, I'm doing, well, one example, if it's a large donor, I might say that, our annual budget right now is about $120,000. Or I have a tour in Eastern Oregon that I'm trying to raise $2,500 for. Or whatever it is, I like to start by telling them what my goal is, what my financial goal is. So I've been honest with them from the start about what the purpose of my call is. I've been open and wanting to learn about the donor and their dreams, not just do a hit and run for money. But now we're talking about money. And you can say, well, Bob, I'm trying to raise $2,500 to do a training tour out in Eastern Oregon. And, we've had a discussion. You've agreed that this is important for us to do. I've told you a little bit about how I can do it. I can provide you more information if you need it. But how much of that do you think you can contribute to? That's a challenge. Because you're not asking for $50, you're not asking for $100. If you're talking to a mid-size or a large donor, you tell them what you're trying to raise and ask them if they can do it, if they can provide it, or how close they can come. How much of that can you provide to make this project successful? More than once, I've had somebody tell me, are you sure that's enough? And I'm like, well, it is, but I'll tell you, there's always another project to do. So it'd be nice to have something in hand for the next one. Sometimes they'll say, well, I can give you $1,000. That's fine. If you have a relationship with them already, you might be able to say, can you make that $1,500? That's very generous, but can you do 15? Most of the time they can't. Sometimes they'll say, it's a bad time, call me in a month. If they're doing that, they're either putting you off or they're a small donor. Now, if they're a small donor, you have to let them know that every dollar that they contribute is important. I like to say to people, some folks donate $25, to a particular project. And I like to say to them, something, that'll get me 300 miles. That's valuable. I'm grateful for that. putting gas in my tank. That'll take us 300 miles on this 3,000-mile training trip. I want to thank you for that. Make sure that everyone feels that they have a stake in what they're doing. Again, I sort of want to review this. You're getting this in lightning round fashion. But what you're doing is you are coming to somebody with a project. It might be a political campaign, or it might be a community building project or a ballot measure campaign. And you are starting out by outlining for yourself what values you bring to the table, what it is that you are offering as benefits in exchange for somebody's money. You're adopting an attitude that what you are doing is honorable, because you're not begging for money, and you're not asking for something based on need. You are offering a tangible value in exchange for something else. Then you are getting the people together, the lists of people you're going to call. Then you call them and you tell them outright. Say, look, I'm trying to raise money and get some support for this project. I'm going to ask you for some money, but I want to do more than that. I'm trying to canvass folks and find out what it is that the grassroots is interested in accomplishing. So do you have 5 minutes to tell me about some of your opinions? They'll usually do it. As they're talking, you look for a match between the values you bring to the table and what it is that they care about. If you have one, say, well, let's talk about that for a minute. Let's talk about that for a minute. I think we can help you with that. You want to build infrastructure. My campaign, in addition to running for office and wanting to win it, we're building infrastructure too. That infrastructure that'll survive the campaign, whether I win or lose. I'd like you to help with that. I'm trying to raise $2,500. How much of that can you provide? And many times they'll say yes, many times they'll say no, but you don't have to be ashamed of asking. That's the biggest thing I want you to take from this from this training today, is never be ashamed of asking for financial support in exchange for a worthwhile project. People who look for venture capital, they have an idea for a new website or whatever it is, they're taking something of value to venture capital, asking for money. You are doing the same exact thing. Then you make your pitch, you make your close, you ask them for money, and if they provide it, one of the things you need to do is make sure that you're able to take money. They can write you a check. If it's a large donor, they're probably going to want to write you a check. But if it's a small or even a mid-sized donor, you want to make sure that you get the money immediately, if you can, so that they don't have time to change their mind. So set yourself up with something like PayPal or Square, something where you can take a credit card over the phone or an electronic check.
What's all that noise?
Oh, I might have hit my desk. That might have caused a bang. I apologize. Yep. And a couple of other things I'd like to do is sometimes it helps to create some urgency. Now, I don't like to create urgency in a cheap TV way, like, you've got to buy now, now, now. You know, you see that on TV a lot with people selling stereos. Sometimes if you know a donor, you can ask them, say, look, would you be willing to match other people's contributions up to $5,000 if they make those contributions within the next week? A lot of donors like to do matching funds because they're doing 2 to 1. If you get somebody to commit to a matching donation, you have natural urgency. You can tell the donors, once you've come to an agreement that you have something that they want, and you've told them how much you're trying to raise, you can say, well, you know, we've got an opportunity to leverage your money 2 for 1. I have a donor that's willing to match all of the donations people make in the next week up to a total of $5,000. You've created urgency. It's natural urgency. It's not cheesy. You hear OPB do it all the time. We have a matching grant. Send us $25 and it becomes $50, that sort of thing. You can do that too. And that creates a little bit of urgency. Sometimes you'll find urgency on the election calendar. We've got a primary coming up in a couple of weeks. We've got to get this started right away. Can you help us now? You know, that there's nothing wrong with that, because everybody can see what the calendar is. They know you're not being cheesy, but you create some urgency. Finally, make sure that you follow whatever rules you need to follow with regard to reporting. Oregon requires that if you raise more than a certain amount of money, you need to file a PAC. If you raise more than $3,500, you have to report on ORSTAR, all the contributions and expenditures that you make. Washington has different laws. It's important to contact the Secretary of State and get their manual on campaign finance and make sure that you properly report the money that you raise and the money that you spend. We have a separate training on that. These trainings that we're doing here are only 40 minutes and we're about out of time right now. But be aware that as you raise money, you will need to report that in some fashion, especially if you raise anything over like $750 in Oregon. In Washington, it's a different number. But make sure that you know what the laws are and make sure that you're in compliance with the law. Someone in your organization probably knows how to do campaign finance reporting. I use people to do that here in Oregon because I don't know all the ins and outs. But it's important that you not get fined by your state's Secretary of State because you didn't report money that you raised quickly enough. That's a good way to have the benefit of all of your work kind of disappear up in the smoke. So I just gave you a lightning fast bullet point selection on some of the key aspects to raising money. Is there any comment or question that you'd like to raise? I see Michael. There you go.
Yeah, there we go.
Buttons.
Yeah, I got to mute. Yeah, thank you, Richard. Yeah, this is great information. I really appreciate that. One point that I like to try and make with my donor asks is, I know that 100 or 200, it could be a lot of money depending on the capacity, but break it down to the smallest common denominator. How about $20 a month, ongoing, and then you can tell me to stop at any time.
Sure.
So most of us can spend $20 on a meal, or a lot of people spend that on coffee a week, type of situation. So back to your point, but have the ability to collect that money on an ongoing basis. Yep. And we've been able to collect quite a bit of money at $20 a piece. That's a pretty easy entry level for most people. So
sure, that's really good. There's so much to cover on this.
Right.
Didn't even touch on recurring contributions, which is
right.
Which is great. And Western Liberty Network, we have a recurring contribution program. For anyone out there trying to run a campaign, it's great. Thank you very much for that point.
Yeah, you're welcome,
Michael. So Glenn, Ginger, Mike, do you have anything you'd like to ask or say?
Can you share your address again?
My address is, the address for Western Liberty Network is 7100 Southwest Hampton, and that's Hampton. My mom asked me if I live in the Hamptons. No, I said just one. Just a singular Hampton. Suite 201, and that's in Tigard, Oregon, 97223.
Okay, and you had the RPB Central at
gmail.com. Western Liberty Network is going to get its own email server as soon as I finish building it. And so we'll have westernlibertynetwork.org email addresses soon, but right now it's rpbcentral@gmail.com.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you very much.
Richard, I have a question.
Yes, Ginger.
Can you hear me?
I can.
How do you feel about fundraising events?
Fundraising events are great. The biggest problem that a lot of people have with fundraising events is that sometimes they don't make any money with them. A lot of times, I remember I was talking to someone who ran a fundraising dinner at a county Republican party, and the speaker cost so much money, and the hotel contract was so big that they ended up making just a very paltry amount that was disproportionate to the amount of work and effort and expense that went into it. That said, even if you don't make a lot of money off of an event like that, they're oftentimes worth doing because they build camaraderie, they help you build relationships. You can approach people later who attended it, who said, "Oh, that was a great conference," and or a great dinner. And they're oftentimes open to donating money later. But for small organizations, I say if you're going to do a fundraising event, that's great, but keep your costs low, keep your costs down, make sure it's inexpensive enough for people to participate in, but make sure you don't bury yourself in overhead.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep. And if anyone else wants to add in on that, that's fine. I love these to be wide open venues.
I'd like to share if I could. I know we're past time, but we have a candidate that's running for city council, and we had a big donor that was going to celebrate her birthday with everybody and had all the invites out. And of course, the COVID happened, so we had a virtual birthday party.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, a lot of people before this weren't familiar with Zoom. And now almost everybody knows what Zoom is,
Right.
and it's not weird anymore. So you can have virtual events that, you know, to have, you know, there's virtual happy hours there. I mean, lots of people are creative with this product here, the Zoom. So I would encourage people to kind of talk to other people that have done it. And it's kind of fun actually to do that. So, but I agree with you. The hard costs of some of those big, I don't know when we're going to be able to do them, number one, again, you know, and this costs virtually nothing, and it's kind of fun to do. So,
yep, I do a year. I do my annual Western Liberty Network conference in late January, early February. It usually costs about $20,000 to put on.
Yeah.
And I've been doing a summer mini conference here and there. Last year I did one in Bend, and that was about $10,000 to put on. But there are some things you can do to help. For example, 2 years ago, we had Kat Timpf of Fox News as our featured speaker. And we had a donor that's a big Kat Timpf fan. And so he wrote us a fat check in support of the conference for $10,000. You know, that supported Kat's fee and a big chunk of the hotel. And if you can find somebody that's willing to sponsor your event, you know, that's great. Now, if I have the choice between someone writing a $10,000 check for a conference that cost me a lot of money to put on, or just writing a $10,000 check for general use without putting a conference on, you know, financially, it makes sense to, you know, just take the money and use it for your mission. But there are values to having conferences. It raises the prestige of your organization. It lets people participate. It lets them invest in things. And many times there are donors who won't support general expenses. They'll only support specific projects. In this case, it just happened to be a Kat Timpf fan that landed in our lap. You know, so you know, you've got to sort of play that one by ear.
One thing that, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Ginger. Yeah. One thing I've done before, which was quite successful, was send out an invitation to an event, but it was do not come. Just instead of paying for the dinner, give us a donation. And that seemed to be very successful.
Yep. Sometimes that can happen. What we do is we ask everybody to come to our conference, but we say, if you can't, sponsor somebody who, you know, offer us a sponsorship so that maybe a veteran or a student low on cash can attend. And sometimes that helps. But like I say, you got to watch these conferences. If you provide a dinner or a buffet lunch like we always do, it's usually like $45 a plate. and it can really get expensive. But there is real value in doing conferences like that to build the organization's, I guess, social culture and camaraderie and all of that sort of thing. So a lot of factors to weigh. And so, Mike, you haven't piped up yet. Mike Sears, would you like to say anything? You're going to have to unmute your microphone. There you are.
There we go. Thank you. The thought just occurred to me that we could actually have events around issues such as Second Amendment rights. Like if we had a gun range or something, we could bring people in, give them hot dogs, and as a fundraiser to, you know, target shoot for a little while or something like that. But you can combine an issue with an event. So
That's a good idea. You know, I don't know where you live, Mike, but up in Clatsop County every year they have a gun organization has a big fundraiser out there. They asked me to MC it one time. I went there. There were about 500 people there. They had games along the side, and
the carnival with weapons. Yeah.
Is that you? So you're familiar with it?
No, I'm not actually. I was a member of the Sluts Gun Club.
Yeah.
And Sluts, and I can't find how to pay my membership right now because the store that you bought them from is shut down and stuff. So I don't know how that's going to open up or what the situation is.
Right.
It's Big Timber Gun Range. I'm the chairman of Tillamook County Central Committee.
The Tillamook County Republican Party?
Yep.
Okay, excellent. It's good to have you aboard. So
yeah, the girls are up waving flags in Tillamook right now. So
yeah.
We also heard that the release of the recall, the information I got was yesterday, and all the information I'm going to send out to all the PCPs and people that are involved with our central committee. It looks like a real strong go from what I've seen already.
Okay.
So
all right. Well, good luck to you.
thank you.
And let us know if we can help with respect to training for signature gathering or anything like that.
The reference is on Facebook. It's Kate Brown Total Recall 2020. And from that site, you print your own petitions for yourself or for 5 people or for 10 people.
Sure. Okay.
That's the way it's working this time.
Well, thank you, Mike.
Okay.
They're going to cut us off here in a couple of minutes, so I think we'll wrap it up. I want to thank everybody for participating today. We're going to do this on a more regular basis and build up the audience a bit. And we're looking forward to getting out in the field and doing live trainings again. So again, if you would like the documents, the companion training document that goes with this, send me an email to rpbcentral@gmail.com, and we'll be sure to get that out to you right away. So thank you very much for participating today.
All right, thank you.
Okay, take care. God bless.
Thank you.